Hi, hello, and welcome, or welcome back, I suppose. So, as we know, in April, I am only reading books from my shelf, and for a short, I just pulled my title from a tin, and I got Boys Run the Riot by Keito Gaku. It is a trans manga, transmasculine manga, so I figured I would read you the blurb. A transgender teen finds an escape from the expectations and anxieties of his daily life in the world of street fashion in this personal, heartfelt story from a transgender manga creator. At the seams. High schooler Rio knows he's transgender, but he doesn't have anyone to confide in about the confusion he feels. He can't tell his best friend, who he secretly got a crush on, and he can't tell his mum, who's constantly asking why Rio dresses like a boy. He certainly can't tell Jin, the new transfer student who looks like just another bully. The only time Rio feels at ease is when he's wearing his favourite clothes. Then, and only then, the world melts away and he can be his true self. One day, while out shopping, Rio sees someone he didn't expect. Jin. The kid who looked so tough in class has the same taste in fashion as him. At last, Rio has someone he can open up to, and the journey ahead might finally give him a way to express himself to the world. Obviously, I am excited about a book like this. It sparks joy in me to find trans stories, especially obviously written by trans authors. So, yeah, I am looking forward to this one, and I hope you are too. Looks like we are on a shorter one again today, but honestly, even if that hadn't been pretty normal for me recently, it's standard when I'm covering manga and graphic novels, unless I do decide to go through them deep dive style, but I don't think I actually have done that yet. Also, whatever art I decide to do this time feels like a makeup job for the last time I reviewed manga, because that Beastar speed roll was... Well, I quite liked the art that I finished with, but I have since learned how to use OBS. I thought I was going to do something fashion focused, and that unfortunately isn't really my area. So, like, I was thinking, a lot of the stuff in this book is streetwear. It's simple structures, simple styles, but I tried a couple of different things. It just wasn't working out. So you can see what we have going on instead. Oh, just before we do actually get into this properly, because I'm recording this on the same day that I did my delegate review, I might sound gross and nasally, and to be fair, I usually sound pretty nasally. That's just what I sound like. But I might sound a bit more like that than usual because there's something going on with me. I don't know what. I'm hoping it's just allergies. But anyway, on to the actual review. I just wanted to make sure you know why I sound kind of different. Right out of the gate, we are greeted with a super cool opening page. Full colour, incredible vibes, and the perfect way to introduce us to Rio. It really gels with that street fashion thing that this book has going on, and immediately brings us to the inherent transness of it all. And from the offset, this is one of those books that if you are a trans reader, or, probably a queer reader in general, it will feel really different depending on how old you are and how long you've been out of the closet, if you are yet at all. There are these little moments where Rio goes something like, "A girl like me," in that, haha, yes, I am very believable when I say this kind of way. And it's really easy for me to look back at myself, to look back and see myself at a certain point in time, specifically right before I came out, which this first book is right where Rio is about to come out to someone at the first time. It's not more general than that. But I remember that period of time where it was just like, for me, I hit the denial button really hard. So I was wearing a lot of long wigs, trying to feminize my face as much as possible, very soft, natural kind of makeup, just really going hard on trying to be a convincing woman. It didn't work. I was not convincing anybody, but trying to convince myself the trans thoughts didn't mean anything could only work for so long. And here I am 7 years later, and yes, the trans thoughts won. That's exactly what I am. The denial button wore out, its batteries are gone, and they don't make the kind that would put it back up anymore. But like I said, that's not quite Ryu's story. He's only trying to convince everyone else that he's not trans, but by this point he is pretty certain of the fact that he is trans. And yeah, there are a couple of moments where he's looking things up and maybe he's like, but is it this? But it's very clear that he is pretty certain at this point. He's not trying to deny it, he's trying to more be certain. And I see him, and I just want to protect him and take care of him. And to be fair, thankfully, he does find himself a protector in Jin, a new student in his class. This boy, just zero social awareness in him, but he does have a heart of gold, and therefore I forgive him. And to be fair, neither of them are particularly subtle about anything. He's such a sweetheart, and at first he doesn't know that Ryo's trans, but they see each other in a clothes shop, and Jin just thinks that it's cool that they share a fashion sense. Overall, not caring that, from his perspective, this is a girl in quote-unquote boys' clothes. And it is fashion that brings them together, with Jin asking Ryo to start a fashion brand with him. And Jin calls Ryo partner, which is so cute, frankly. Ryo can think Jin is as cringy as he likes, but one of my old flatmates called me partner alongside captain, cowboy, and champ, and I kind of miss being called that regularly. Frankly, there's a hole in my life missing from regularly being called cowboy. But he's doing that well before he finds out that Ryo's trans. He just thinks he's a cool business partner. He forms this, like, immediate bond. I know this is overused, but, like, this boy does have golden retriever energy. He is loyal to a fault, no social grace or awareness, and has never had a single thought in his life. God bless him. And I love the way that they form a dynamic together. And there's just something about Ryo in this absolutely fragile state, being able to find someone to confide in that really warms my heart. And he's so funny. Like I said, exactly the same lack of subtlety about things, kind of aggro about everything because he doesn't know how to put his feelings in place. He's a teenager, for God's sake. And it's just like, I love them so much. They make me so happy. And there's plenty to choose from, but I think the scene where Ryo comes out to Jin might be my favourite. It's just immediate acceptance and a want to understand his friend from Jin. He knows that he'll never fully understand what Ryo is going through, but he wants to try, and isn't that all we can ask for? There's also a cathartic feeling of Ryo just letting it all out, finally. It's clearly the first time that he's told somebody else, and it's this spilling out and sense of freedom. I still, to this day, remember who the first person I told was. In the middle of the night, I was crying, unable to sleep, and I had this feeling of, yeah, okay, this is who I am. And I messaged the one trans man I knew at the time, and I came out to him. When it's just you in your own head, it feels like being bottled up, and that first person you come out to, it can often be like the cork flying off a champagne bottle. It's so freeing. I did, however, accidentally come out to my family on April 1st, not realising the date, but that's unrelated. Listen, my family didn't think I was trying to pull some kind of, like, April Fool's prank, but I was asked, do you know what day it is? And I simply said, Friday. So needless to say, I'm as thick in the head as I am in the ass, but I can't complain about either of those things. And while Jin isn't the most aware in general, the way he quickly picks up on the importance of clothes for Ryo really warms my heart. He's immediately like, well, this is how you feel like you. and let's break down people's assumptions about fashion with our brand. And I love seeing this work out between them. Everyone does deserve to be seen and accepted, and the fact that from the off, Rio finds that in Jin just makes me feel all warm and sappy. Kind of an aside, the only real gripe I have with this book is that the chapter markers kind of blend into the panels too much. I like that the chapters follow directly on from each other. I know that's how chapters work, but it's literally one long story rather than being more overtly broken up with time breaks or anything like that. It does pretty much follow on from each other, but I just prefer seeing where the breaks are. If I'm not reading all in one go, which I did happen to this time, but I don't always. I'm usually reading in 2 or 3 sittings. It is nice to have a clear visual marker to know where I can stop. I mean, you can have a contents page with the page number for each chapter as well, but there are also no page numbers, so I don't know how I'm supposed to use that information. But, like I say, that's my only real gripe, so back onto the praise. Early on in the book, we see that Rio is binding, and there's a little editor's note that says, "Please bind responsibly. For more information, see page 226. Page 226 being part of the translation notes, where we get... In panels 2 and 3, we see Rio binding his chest, a practice common among transgender and non-binary individuals to reduce the appearance of a person's chest to appear more traditionally masculine. Transgender people might bind their chest in order to relieve their gender dysphoria. See following page. When binding, please remember to do so responsibly. Remember to take breaks and to never bind using elastic bandages or tape. Wear a binder that's too small for your body or bind for more than 8 hours. If you experience any pain while binding, take your binder off immediately." And I love the inclusion of this, because while we do live in a world where info is really easy to access, if you're in the early days of transition, this might be an introduction to binding for you. And I'm glad we have this bit of necessary advice. And just generally, I really love the little trio that ends up forming here. They later meet Itsuka, who becomes the photographer for their brand, and they all just end up fitting together so nicely despite all being so different. They just click. And of course that does mean I have to read the entire rest of the series, though I'm not sure I will end up buying the rest. That is just for space reasons. I just don't have the pure space, because I know that there's a fair amount in this series. So I know I've seen a couple of different volumes at my local library, so I will probably reserve volume 2 pretty soon. And I always look forward to seeing trans stories, especially by trans authors, obviously. And if you'll have any books to recommend in that vein, please let me know, because I just let me know in the comments. I especially want to see some trans mask stories, because I am, for obvious reasons, a little bit biased, but just in general, trans stories, preferably by trans authors. That's not to say that non-trans authors can't do a good job, but there is always going to be a difference. Do feel free to like, feel free to subscribe, feel free to put your notifications on, and all that cringe shit I'm supposed to ask you to do at the end of my videos. But most importantly, I hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful night, a wonderful whenever you are watching this. Take good care of yourself. Right.